Peter heals a beggar, far away and long ago, to a city of pale stone and golden light, where a story is about to unfold that will stay with you as gently as a dream. The city was Jerusalem, and on this particular afternoon, the air was warm and dry, carrying with the faint fragrance of cedar and incense and the distant sound of doves. The great temple rose up at the heart of the city the way a mountain rises, steady, ancient, enormous, and all through the winding streets, people were making their way toward it, because the ninth hour had come, the hour of prayer, the hour when the bustle of the day grew quiet for a moment, and people turned their hearts toward something larger than themselves. Among those walking toward the temple that afternoon were two men, old friends, close as brothers, who had walked many roads together. Their names were Peter and John. They moved through the narrow streets at an easy pace, their sandals scuffing softly against the ancient stones beneath them, their voices low and unhurried. They had known great things and hard things together, these two men, and there was a quiet steadiness about them, the kind that only comes from having been through storms and finding yourself still standing on the other side. As they drew near to the temple, they approached one of its great entrances, a gate so magnificent that people simply called it the Beautiful Gate. And it was beautiful, truly. Its arched frame rose high above the heads of those who passed beneath it, and the last of the afternoon sun traced its edges in warm gold, making it glow like something not quite of this world. It was the kind of gate that made you pause, even if you had walked past 100 times before. It made you feel, for just a moment, that you were standing on the threshold of something holy. But just to the side of that beautiful gate, on the worn stone of the street, sat a man. He had been sitting there every single day for as long as anyone could remember. Every morning, the people who loved him, family perhaps, or kind-hearted neighbors, would carry him from his home and set him down beside this gate, because it was a busy place, a place where people passed constantly, and where a humble outstretched hand might find a little mercy. And every evening, those same people would come back and carry him home again. He had never walked to that gate. He had never walked anywhere at all. From the very day he was born, his legs had not carried him, not once, not even a single step. He was 40 years old now, and every single one of those years had unfolded from a seated place, watching the world move past him on its own 2 feet, while it remained still and silent beneath him. He had learned not to expect much. A coin here and there, a nod of pity, a small kindness. That was the life he knew, and he held on to it without bitterness. Because what else is there to do but hold on? As Peter and John approached, the man looked up the way he always did when someone drew near, and he held out his hands, and in the quiet, worn voice of someone who has asked 1,000 times before, he asked if they might have something to spare for him. Peter stopped walking, not in a hurried way that people sometimes stop, already thinking about moving on, but fully, completely, the way you stop when something matters. He turned, and he looked at the man. Not past him, not through him, not with the quick glance of someone who is somewhere more important to be, but with a real and unhurried gaze, the way you look at someone when you are truly seeing them. John stopped too, and Peter said, gently and clearly, "Look at us." And the man looked up at them, his eyes open and searching, still hoping, perhaps, for a coin. Then Peter spoke words that fell into that afternoon like stones into still water, sending quiet ripples in every direction. He said, "Silver and gold I do not have, but what I do have I give you." There was a pause, just a breath, just a heartbeat. And then Peter spoke a name that seemed to hum with something ancient and alive and full of light. He said, "In the name of Jesus Christ of Nazareth, rise up and walk." And then he reached down, and he took the man's right hand, and he lifted him up, and something happened that no one who saw it would ever be able fully put into words. The man felt it first in his feet, a warmth, a solidity, a kind of aliveness flooding into places that had always been silent. Then into his ankles, those thin, weak ankles that had never once borne his weight. And they held. They held. He stood. He stood up straight and tall, and the ground was real beneath him, and his legs did not give way, and for a long, shimmering moment, he simply stood there, feeling something so new and so enormous that there were no words for it, only feeling. Then he took a step, and then another, and then, because 40 years of stillness had finally broken open into motion, he began to walk, and then to leap, Not carefully, not timidly, but with the wild and simple joy of a person who has just received something they had stopped believing they would ever have. He walked through the beautiful gate and into the temple courts, and with every step he lifted his voice in praise, and the sound of it rose up into the golden air like something being set free after a very long time. The people inside the temple heard him before they fully understood what they were seeing. They recognized him. Of course they did. They had walked past that man at that gate for years. They knew his face, his posture, the quiet patience of his outstretched hands. And now here he was, standing, walking, leaping, filled with something that made the very air around him feel different. A hush fell over the temple courts. A deep, spreading, wordless wonder, the kind that does not shout but simply settles, warm and wide and still, over everyone present. They were amazed. They were moved in a way that went deeper than surprise, deeper than curiosity. They had just witnessed something that reminded them, quietly and powerfully, that the world is larger and more tender than it sometimes seems. And so, dear one, let that story rest in you now as you move toward sleep. A man who waited 40 years beside a beautiful gate. 2 friends who stopped, who really, truly stopped, and looked at him. A hand reaching down. A name spoken with gentleness and power. And feet, still and silent for so long, finally touching the ground and carrying their owner forward into a life that was suddenly completely, wonderfully new. Sometimes the most beautiful things begin in the simplest moments, at an ordinary gate on a warm afternoon, when someone chooses to stop and give not what they have, but what they are. Rest now, beloved. Let your body be still and your mind grow soft. You are safe. You are held. And all tonight is very well.